Hi folks, Andrew the Fulgor Milano guy here, and I'm going to show you how to get this Italian Fulgor Milano coffee machine to make a North American size mug of coffee. First thing we're going to want to do is turn the coffee machine on, and the start button is right there underneath. And so the first thing it's going to do is heat up all the heaters. There's two heaters in there. One's for the hot liquid for coffee or tea or whatever, and then the other one is for steam. So if you're going to be doing frothing of milk for a cappuccino or something like that. So it's got to heat those heaters up. During the heat up phase, you'll also see it rinse. So you put this down into the collection tray. And while it's doing this, you don't want to pull out your water reservoir as it will interrupt the flow of water, interrupt the rinsing, and potentially even suck some air into the plumbing of the coffee machine, which could cause some problems down the road. It's like an air gap or an air cork, whatever you want to call it, but if you get air in the system, sometimes the pump won't feed water through. So it's always best to wait until it's done its warm up before you check to see if you need to add any water. So the coffee machine's telling me it's time to empty the waste container, so we'll do that. I'm going to pull the door open here. The waste container is right in here. That's where all the old coffee pucks go for making coffee, so we'll empty those out. At the same time, we'll want to empty out the collection tray of any water. And when you're putting this back into the coffee machine, you want to make sure that the waste container is sitting nicely into the base. You see there's this tab at the bottom of the waste container. If the waste container is sitting up or not sitting in properly, this tab, it actually interacts with a switch inside. And so if it's not in position properly, this will miss the switch. And you'll potentially get an error message or constantly telling you to put the waste container back in. So we put the container back in. It's telling us to close the door. Close the door. Now I'm going to check to see how much water we have. We got about half, but we're going to be doing some experimenting in this exercise, so I'm going to add some more water to it. So I use RO water in the coffee machine. Some people say don't use RO water in the coffee machine because what it can do is potentially, because our water has no minerals or has the minerals removed from it, it can potentially grab minerals from the metal parts, i.e. the heater inside the coffee machine to create balance. That's really not a concern. It's really only a concern when you're doing a decalcification routine with the coffee machine. At that point, you definitely want to use tap water when you're decalcifying the coffee machine, because the decalc or decalcification solution actually becomes quite alkaline, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. That combined with the RO water can be very harsh on the metal parts inside. But for day-to-day use, I wouldn't be concerned with using RO water. I've been using this coffee machine for probably 4 years now. In fact, we can even check the statistics and see how many coffees we've made. So if I push the menu button here, and we go to statistics, I'll press OK. Total coffees, 5,785 coffees. And again, I've been using RO water without any issue on the coffee machine. So right now you can see this is the last used setting, which is mug size, normal taste. You can change through the sizes of the cup using this icon. Right, mug, espresso, small, medium, large, back to mug, so you can cycle through it with this button. You can also create a more intense drink by pushing the bean icon. So pre-ground, we won't go into that today, but you can go from extra mild, mild, normal, strong, and extra strong taste. So we'll put it back to normal, the way it was. So like I said, I've been using this for quite some time now. Everything is already set up. So what I'm gonna do is take it back to its factory default settings and then run through the exercise of how to set it up for your individual cup sizes. So as you recall, if we wanted to do an espresso, I'm gonna keep my espresso and cappuccino cups down in the drawer. Right, you can customize the amount of water that comes out for any particular cup size. So for an espresso cup, the default might not be enough espresso for you, and you can increase that amount, and that's what we're going to show in this video. So first thing I'm going to do, because I already have all of our settings in here, I'm going to restore this back to factory defaults so we can see what the factory defaults are first, and then how we can make those adjustments to get to a North American sized mug of coffee. So we'll go to the menu, and then we'll just cycle through the menus until we see something that has to do with default. Reset to default, okay. Okay to confirm. So you can see it even, well, maybe you can't really tell, but it actually dimmed the display as well. And now it's telling us to descale, but we'll do a separate video on that some other time. So I want to increase the contrast. Oops, that goes the wrong way. We're gonna go full, okay. Back. So we're at default. And the first experiment we're going to do is an espresso cup. And let's see what the default amount of espresso that's going to come out of the machine. So we'll press this single. So that'd be your standard Italian espresso, or if you're in Italy, you order a coffee, this is what you're gonna get, it's an espresso. But we have a lot more espresso cup here that we could be using. So what we can do is increase the amount, if we want, to get more espresso in that cup. So now we're going to increase the amount of water that gets dispensed when making an espresso or choosing the espresso cup. We'll go into the menu system and we'll go to program coffee. Oh, there it is. We'll press OK. And then here we can cycle through, the various cup sizes, and we can adjust and set the amount of water for every size. So if we press OK, it'll show us this is the initial or default setting, factory setting for espresso. And I want more espresso in my cup, so I'm going to increase it. I'm just gonna push it once, and then we're gonna press OK, and that will lock in that amount. Just for interest's sake, let's go and check out what the mug setting is. So we press OK. So mug is about halfway. And then when we make our first mug of coffee, you'll see how much water that equates to. So we're just gonna leave it at the default setting. So we'll escape out of here. And now we'll make another espresso, pressing the single espresso or single cup icon. And let's see how much espresso we get this time. And some of you may wonder why it does this initial pump of water and pause, and then it starts pumping again. Well, the reason it does that is that initial bit of water that goes into the compressed puck of coffee, it pauses to give it a little bit of time to kind of saturate that puck and get it completely wet, kind of like a sponge. And then when the next dose of water comes through, it doesn't have just a cut path through the coffee, it goes through all the coffee and maximizes the amount of contact with the ground coffee as the water passes through. So we can see we actually do have more espresso during that dispense. And I would guess that we could probably go up one more setting if we really wanted to fill this espresso cup. But I think that's a good amount, and I will leave it at that setting. Now, let's see what happens when we want to make a full-size North American morning coffee. And we'll push that up out of the way to make room for these large mug. And we're going to change the cup size to mug, naturally. So mug. We're going to leave it at normal taste, and we're going to press 1 single dispense, and let's see what the Italian default setting considers to be a mug of coffee. Something tells me this is not going to fill. Well, there you have it. That is a mug at the default settings of coffee. So I would say, it's probably hard to tell on the camera, it's maybe a third full. So let's go make the necessary adjustments. We're going to increase the amount of water that comes out on the mug setting. So recall, and we can go either way through the menu system here. We'll go to Program Coffee. And we'll press OK. And we're going to go to the mug setting and press OK. And remember, we had it at halfway. So let's go, and we didn't even get to half inside the mug. So let's see what happens if we go full water, the maximum amount that can come out. So press OK and save that. And I'll go dump this out. Okay, let's see what happens when we make a single mug of coffee in the mug setting with the maximum amount of water set. So what I notice this time is that the gradiated indicator here is going up much slower. So it's going to take longer for it to reach the end, to reach the 100%. Well, that's the maximum amount of water that will come out on a single coffee mug setting. And that's basically about 2/3 of this mug. And so you may ask, well, what are we going to do? How do we actually fill this entire mug in one session? So I'm going to show you a little trick. I'll just dump this one out. So in our current setting, maximum amount of water on mug setting, we're getting about 2/3 of a cup, right? Or of this particular mug. And that's the great thing about this, is you can customize. If your mugs are smaller than this or larger than this, you can customize these settings for each one of your vessels that you're using. The trick I'm going to use, and we're gonna have to change the settings again on the mug setting, but this should be the last time, is I'm going to reduce the amount of water on the mug setting in the settings. And when I make a coffee, I'm going to use the double icon, so as though you're making 2 coffees. So we'll reduce the water. Go to program coffee. That's okay. Mug setting, okay. And remember, we're getting 2/3, so we can't just make 2 coffees at this setting because then we would overflow the mug. So we're gonna reduce it down. Yeah, let's try there. Press OK and go back. And then now we're going to press a double 2. And that's going to increase the amount of coffee that gets ground by double and double the amount of water. And let's see what that results in. Well, I'd say that's pretty good. This leaves us enough room to put our cream or sugar in, however you like, but you can see that we still have room. If we wanted to, we could go in and increase that setting by another notch if we really wanted to get right close to the brim of the mug. But hopefully you found this useful and you'll be able to get the most out of your coffee machine, whether it's an espresso or a full-size North American coffee mug. Thanks for watching.